What's up, Fire Family? It's Kiahonfire, and welcome back to Valheim. Today, I'm going to be showing you my raid-proof base, where I'm going to show you how I build it, why it's raid-proof, and why it's pretty good to build. It's even got a moat with it, and all of that good stuff. The inside is very spacious. The bottom has a very nice protective layer of stone, yet it looks nice again. And then you have shooty holes out the windows as well. Some raids can be pretty dangerous, so having a moat to, stop them going in is great. That and the floor, you just pick it up, will help with a lot as well when that raid is happening. So that's why I've put that all in there. So it's a very safe house. You won't get attacked very much in this one, even from the biggest of things that will come to your base. Now, it took quite a while to farm for it, but that's okay. That's to be expected. I'm pretty sure I used over 100 stone and wood combined easily. The chimney works. It doesn't look like there's any smoke coming out, but it works in a way that you don't get the smoke coming out, but you do have it contained. So it does get a little bit smoky in here, but it doesn't actually gas you, which is good. So the smoke is contained in its own little area. It just makes things look a little bit warm inside, so you won't be gassed, but you will be safe. And then you'll have that fire as well to be able to do all the things that you need to do. If you want to replicate my build, feel free. I got a little speed builder in here for you, so you can. So first I started by leveling the ground with a hoe. I got rid of any lumps and bumps and tried to make it as straight as possible. The next step was to collect loads of wood and stone. Next I needed my stations, so I needed a stone cutter's table and a work table. You might need a couple more of these or to move them around while you build, but just the two together should be more than enough. So we're going to start off building the stone foundation, and I'm going to build it in a certain pattern. I think I was going to go with a nice rectangle with a few bits that stick out, because I don't completely want a box, but at the same time it's a very handy structure to do the actual structure integrity in, because in this game you need proper integrity, otherwise your building will collapse. So I decided to go for a 6x10 on the outside, and then I would fill that in with wood in the inside to save on stone cost. I then went in the middle part on the outside, and I broke 2 of the stone blocks to make a doorway. So I put it right in the middle, so where the 5 meets the 5 on your 10. And then I've moved them out a bit to make a little door frame there to accompany a little patio door. Once that was in, I began to layer the outside because I noticed this little weird gap in the floor with some beams. Just put a little outskirt in there so your stations would tuck in quite nicely behind these beams if you wanted to. And then I began on making the stone wall on the outside, so it just sits on the outside of the stone here. So you can have a little, a bit of space there for everything you need. The corners and the windows weren't too tricky either, because I could just use the 1x1 stone blocks to fill in the space. And once that was done, I put in a gate. However, later on I will change this to a door, so just bear that in mind. And then I put some steps leading down as well. I'll cover this over eventually, because when it rains it actually damages the wood, and you will have to repair it now and again, depending on how long this takes you to build. And then I thought, you know what, I'm going to put some beams on the outside as well to, cut the cut of the stone away from the rest of the stone and make it look like it had a nice border around it. I also did this on the outside of all the edges and in some of the stone creases later on the back side. I also did put those in, and I've put some around the windows as well to make it look more seamless. Then came the first layer of the wall I want to do on the outside, so the second level part. I'm using this 1x1 because I want this to be able to function with a fireplace later on. That, and I kind of wanted to level it with the gate at the time and the windows and everything else. You could go with that 2x2 wall, but it might not fit in just right. But it should eventually look something kind of like this, which I put wood pillars on the outside of this as well. I'm going to make that a theme wall throughout the building, and it will carry through. So you can put these in, or you can wait till you level up again, because there will be another level of these slats that I'm going to put in, where you could do a 2 long beam instead of just that one little pole. But this was the perfect time to then try and do some structural integrity. So this is a very important step, because it will mean your upstairs will be a lot more stable, and you'll be able to do the flooring right and everything like that, and even the roof. So I'm going to put some beams in here. I'm going to make it all supported in the inside. So I'm going to connect it to all those outside poles on the edge of the wooden foundation. So all of these poles are on the edges of the wooden foundation, minus those ones over there by the stone, because that's going to be our support for the front door. It should look a little something like this. Then I went ahead and went to go and put on another layer. However, this layer of wall is flipped around the other way around, so you want the bit of board on the inside to go on the inside instead of the outside, like I did with the last time. I then went to the front of the building and started putting in the small roof piece, because I want this to be my lower part of the building. So I'm using those low sloping walls, not the high ones, just to make it nice. And I'm going to use that nice X topper as well on top when I can, to make it look even better. So you should end up with something kind of looking like this. Next task was to put in the staircase and then floor the entire top with all these beams. Now these beams kind of stuck through, but that was a little bit annoying. I was hoping they would sit on top, but they don't. But they don't seem to interfere much with your walking anyway, so I thought that was fine and just layered the whole floor in that wood. I also kicked one of the windows in the hole in the wall to be able to fit my fireplace and my chimney. So I've cut that bit of the window out I had there and just opened it up, and now I'm gonna kind of slap a little bit of stone around the back. And this is what I settled with. You put a couple of slabs there, and then what you want to do is you want to tuck in that big bit, so you have that gap there, and then two of the smaller bits, and then it will go like that all the way up as far as you want to release the smoke. So you have that little gap there. You can make the chimney bigger if you wanted to make it better at releasing the smoke, but this should be enough if you really want. Now the inside's kind of looking like this, and I want to make a top on top of the fireplace to be able to capture the smoke and stop it going into the room. So you want kind of like a little lip, and then on the inside of that fireplace you want to remove everything near that chimney hole so the smoke goes towards it. So anything blocking the smoke you want to remove. So you can see I got some wood here up by that chimney hole. I'm going to remove that because that's actually going to get in the way of the smoke and keep it trapped up there, which is not what we want. So I'm going to cut those two pieces out and then continue building on the chimney. Now I'm going back to the top of the house where I'm turning the walls inside out again. As you can see, this darker wood is actually damaged and the lighter wood is newer. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do all the corners and make space for the windows. The chimney side doesn't have any windows because I don't want any smoke leaking in if it does. And pretty much, yeah, I'm just placing these stuff here so I can make the window frames with the smaller half walls. And it should kind of end up looking like this is what I finalized with, having these holes identical on each of the sides for the windows. Which of course I'm using bars all the way on the outside of this top bit to make the windows look like windows. I don't want them merging with the roof. And this should actually help with some of our pillars later on, because we're going to need some more stability for the actual roof. I then went to go and put on the higher slopes on my walls on the ends and to make it up into a point. And then I put the the nice X wood on top of that as well. So it should kind of look a lot like this on each of the sides. Now we're going to do the stability. So from the top triangular piece, it might collapse if you're not fast enough on this stage, because them beams don't support very well. So when you build that beam, you want to really quickly switch to the straight beam to put it back down. And now you kind of want something like this. And then we're going to need to connect it in the middle, and you're going to need another pillar in between these two because it just breaks off. As you can see, it's not stable enough. You need to pillar in between the two. And once you got that up, now comes the easy part of just pretty much just layering all that rooftop across the two. And you'll see it's perfectly stable now that you've put those beams in, and the roof should go on just fine. And of course, because I let mine get rained on, I had to go inside with my little repair hammer and repair all of the wet bits of wood that I got rained on before I fully put the roof on to save it from collapsing on me. And once that was done, it was just a question of putting all of my stuff back on the inside of this and using it to be able to make my new moat around the outside. Now the moat is really simple. I just got some of these 4-meter poles out and I put two together, and then I stood at the end of that log, and that's when I would use the pickaxe to dig the holes. So I have got that pole out, and I was going to get the next pole out. This one actually overlapped a bit, so I did need to build some higher banks on this area. As you can see, it has quite lower banks, so I pretty much just did that. And yes, this will take a while, but it's a good source of getting some stone, so it's really pretty good. And you'll see that the end of the tip of the log will actually start to come out the dirt a bit, so it's good measurement for how much space you want in between the house and the moat and the fence. Do remember when you're digging this, depending on your terrain, you might not be able to reach water. I'm pretty low down near the sea, so I had the water as a good measurement. But pretty much if you want to dig it straight, you have to dig one in front of you and one under you, because you'll notice it goes up and it's very annoying otherwise. But you should eventually end up with something like this. You want a nice, decent high moat. So if you think about if you had maybe a troll trying to raid you, something like that big, that you'd want that troll not to be able to get over the wall, so you want to bear that in mind. But most of the AI in this game, if they have like a big ledge or something, they tend to they don't go over it at all. They just avoid it, and it's really handy that way. That's why I've built the moat with the bridge I'm going to put across with the wooden foundation, which is pretty much just gonna, I could break it if I don't want them to go into the house, and the house should be really safe for any ground creatures at all. And then I put a gate in so I could use it, and then I started using that nice stake wall on the outside. I was going to use the spiky wall that just spikes things in the face, but that proved to be pretty expensive because it used core wood and normal wood, and those spike walls, those palisades, seem to be a lot cheaper than the other ones. Another thing I installed though was a nice little lookout post on the edges of the walls. So how I would do this and measure this basically is I would put one of those little ceiling plats against the wall. I'd put a pillar under that. I'd then break the ceiling, and then I'd put one of those 1x1 pillars on top of the original 2 high pillar, and then I'd put the ceiling on top so it just hits the top of the spikes, and then I put in my stairs. But no, you should pretty much end up with something kind of like this in the end of the day, which will be a nice, safe place to live. I haven't had many of those little dwarf creatures bothering me at all. They've been mostly hitting my old house, which I'm now going to label the decoy house. So that's pretty handy, but yeah. It's a nice space to live in. There's plenty of room for all the stations all the way around the courtyard. There's plenty of spaces for bees and all of that business as well. And you could have plenty of forges and, charcoal kilns in here as well if you wanted. There's loads and loads of space for that kind of thing. Let me know what you think of my build, and if you have a build of your own that is very unraidable, etc., or just want to share your own Valheim builds, definitely tweet me on Twitter and show me your build. I would love to see it. Anyways, thank you for watching. I love you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye!